Hello, and welcome back to our Social Capital series. In this session, I have a career conversation with Sara Shepard. Sara is an alumna and the Director of Employer Relations here at Mercy. In this recording, she talks to me about her career journey to date and shares some real stories about how she successfully used her social capital to advance her career. Sara's story is a true testament to the power of staying ready and being open to opportunities when they present themselves. She also talks about the winding road to get to that first job, feeling like she just needed someone to take a chance on her, how she faked it till she made it, and how she made graduate school decisions. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. This session is being offered as part of our Fall 2024 Career Academy series. Today, I'm here to introduce you to the topic of social capital. Throughout the rest of the series, you'll hear stories from members of the career team at Mercy about how their social capital helped them achieve milestones in their careers. We all know firsthand how important connections are when it comes to career success, and I can't wait for you to hear some of these wonderful stories that we have to share with you. After you watch a Career Academy session, make sure you take the quiz on our website to earn your credit for that session. If you watch at least 4 sessions and submit those quizzes, you'll earn a digital badge at the end of the semester that you can list on your resume and share on LinkedIn if you wish. All badge earners will be entered into our iPad raffle, and we'll draw that name the week of December 9th, so get those quizzes in by December 5th if you want to be included in the raffle. Hello and welcome to a conversation with the career team. My name is Lynn Lees. I'm the Director of Career Education here at Mercy University, and today I am speaking with my partner in crime, my fellow director here in Career and Professional Development, Sara Shepard. Sara, welcome to the Zoom room.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, Lynn. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited for everyone to hear a little bit about your story. Can you begin by telling us a bit about your current role here at Mercy?
Sure. So currently I'm the Director of Employer Relations. I've been working at Mercy for 12 years now, which I can't believe, in a variety of different roles on the career team, starting from a student support role and moving into more of the employer relations work. And really what my goal is to build relationships with employers who want to hire our students for internships and jobs, and to also plan networking events for students to network with employers. That's the bulk of it.
And this video isn't a plug for all the services, but there are a ton of opportunities and relationships that Sara and her team are opening up and recruitment events all year. So the work she's doing already is right there in front of you, ready to take advantage of. Please, please do. She's working very hard on it. Sara, of course. Can you now walk us back a little bit, just briefly tell us about that journey to get to Mercy and the jobs you had in between?
Sure. I'm excited to talk to you about that, actually. So I switched majors several times in college. I'm actually a Mercy alum. I'm also a first-gen college student. I have an associate's in accounting. I have a bachelor's in marketing. And after a few years in the workplace, I got a master's in HR management. So as you can see, I just had a lot of different interests and switched gears. I also have a certificate of completion in broadcasting, which was fun and unnecessary, but still fun. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do after graduation. I just knew that I wanted to help people. That was my main goal. I've worked since I was 13 in every role you can think of. So babysitting, retail, lots of restaurant work. And I found it really difficult to find that first full-time job out of college. I didn't feel like I had the right kind of experience, and I felt kind of boxed in my retail restaurant experience that didn't translate into a professional role, and that's really what my goal was. I felt like I had to find someone to believe in me, to give me that first full-time job that I could really excel at. So in order to get some variation on my resume after I graduated, I took some jobs that I really did not have a lot of interest in, but it was 2008 and the job market was in really rough shape. So it was really hard to get any sort of entry-level experience. One of those positions, I sold self-storage. So I had to learn a lot about square footage, which I still did not commit to memory, unfortunately. I'm just not good at that. And The next was working for a very small local business as a real estate appraiser recruiter. None of these jobs required a bachelor's degree, and I really felt like I wanted a position where I could use my degree. I worked really hard for it, and I pushed through a lot of barriers to be able to get that degree. So I wanted it to matter. But this job as the real estate appraiser recruiter is what brought me to my first, what I consider my first real good job.
So you've already said so many things that I feel like resonate with current students, and I have a million follow-up questions, but my focus with this conversation is kind of on building that network. So I'm going to start there. Can you talk to us about a time that using your network helped you successfully advance in this career path?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm working as the real estate appraiser recruiter. And we have a coffee truck that comes every morning to bring coffee and breakfast to these kind of two buildings that were across the street from each other. So every morning I would meet people from the building across the street and talk to them. We would get our coffee. We were just friendly. So I had some good rapport with them just from seeing them daily. One day they told me about a position that was opening up at their organization. And it was for an HR recruiter position at a social service agency. And this felt so perfect to me. Paid time off, health benefits. This felt unheard of in the roles that I had had all throughout my work experience. So I was really excited to know a few people that already work there and kind of get my resume to the top of the pile to be interviewed. So shortly after that, I had to hide a blazer in my car, run out of work a little early, go run in my car, put the blazer on, then hide in the parking lot to go through the back entrance so nobody saw me, go to this interview across the street because that would have been frowned upon. And I had my interview. The hiring manager, I feel like, looked at my resume that, was a little mismatched for a human resources role, but I convinced her that I was really interested in human resources, really interested in recruiting, and more importantly, really interested in kind of the mission of the agency, which was to help people who need help. So if I didn't build those relationships at the coffee truck, I feel like I would have never known about that position. And spoiler alert, I did get the job. I did prove myself. I was promoted 2 times in just 3 years. By the time I left there, I was actually supervising 2 HR recruiters as the employment manager for the whole agency of 1,000 people. So it was a really rewarding role. I met some wonderful people and I learned so much from them.
So two things really stand out to me about this story when we think about kind of what we talk to students about in the world of social capital and building relationships and networking. One is that we talk to them about kind of staying ready for these spontaneous opportunities, right? You really never know where they're going to come up. And the other is that investment in relationships with people, even when it's not necessarily going to yield anything, right? When you're headed to the coffee truck, you don't know that somebody that you see every morning for coffee is necessarily going to have a connection into a job at some point, but you're being yourself, number one, right? And friendly and polite and professional with people who are kind of in your circle while you're at work, and it pays off. So I love lots of aspects of this story. I particularly love hiding in the parking lot
I was
because
terrified I was going to
yeah,
get caught. Yeah.
that's the stealth job search, right? When you don't want people where you're working to know that you're on the hunt. But I love those in particular, those details. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts between the truck to the interview, whatever you want to talk about what you think you did particularly well in that process to make this a success. Because these things do pop up spontaneously, but if we don't know how to take advantage of them, right? They'll fall away. So what do you think you did well to make that a success?
So I think first it's just being friendly to the people around me, no matter where I am. So just kind of being a person that people look to just be kind, be courteous. So I think that was a good move on my behalf. And then again, always be ready, just like you just said. I could have not taken action immediately when they told me that the position was open. And then it was an entry level HR position. It would have been snatched up immediately. So I could have just not moved as fast as I did. And I think that we would have had a different outcome. So I think you just always have to be ready and do things that scare you. You know, I was terrified on the interview. I did it anyway. I was terrified in the parking lot, but I did it anyway. So just, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Um, yeah, that would be my advice there.
I'm also curious about, so you're in this interview and you don't have HR experience and you're talking about I had to convince this person, right? I'm wondering about how you how you summoned the language, how you summoned the courage to just kind of overcome maybe what could have been presented as a negative to you, like, well, you don't have this experience. Had you practiced talking about yourself? Had you practiced talking about what was interesting to you at that point? If you can try to put yourself back in those shoes. I know it was a little while ago, but and also, so yeah, had you practiced, and if not, kind of where did you pull that out of yourself to kind of convince somebody on the spot with no experience? And again, we'll talk a little bit about the relevance of experience because you did have a ton of relevant experience, but you didn't have the HR experience. So I'm wondering where that came from and how you feel you pulled that out.
Sure. Well, I definitely practiced before I got in to the interview. So that's a must. I poured over their website to try and just get as much information as I could to seem knowledgeable in the interview. And that I cared, that I really cared about being invited into this interview and feeling fortunate to be up for the position. Also, my motto is fake it till you make it. So I just kind of went in with this confidence that if I didn't know how to do something, I would learn, and that I was resourceful, and that I would, if I had to figure something out, I would figure it out. It also helped that I had the word recruiter on my resume, but it was a very different kind of recruiter. So I just didn't point that part out. So while the word was transferable, the actual skills that I was using were not quite the same, but I just kind of went with it. So fake it till you make it is a motto I still stand by.
And of course, there's a fine line between like full on lying and
Right.
and massaging something so that somebody understands and you connect the dots, and you don't want to show up and not be able to do the job, but you had the skills, you just needed the chance, which is incredible. I am also curious a little bit about, you had been working since you were 13, and I think that describes a lot of our students as well, right? We talk about motivated students. Our students are so often working their way through college, right? They come with a long work history. And even when they're not, a lot of them have picked up or will pick up these kind of similar jobs, right? Like a service job or babysitting. When the time came for that kind of first professional job, how do you feel, or maybe what was the feedback from the employer even on how those jobs actually did set you up for success?
Sure. So I leaned on those jobs quite a bit because what you're learning in all those jobs is customer service, and you're learning how to work with all kinds of different people, whether those people be your coworkers of all different ages or your customers of all different ages and backgrounds. So in my opinion, and what my employer actually said, was all those work experiences were great because it just showed you have work ethic. It shows that you've been out in the world, you know, participating in different experiences. So that part, while I didn't realize it at the time, and I think oftentimes our students downplay their experiences. They're actually really valuable.
Yeah, I think that's a big takeaway, and employers tell us that all the time too, right? Don't avoid talking about or listing on your resume those babysitting jobs, those sales jobs, even if they feel like they're not exactly career related or they fall into a different category of work for you that you feel less excited about, or maybe has set you up less than you would like. I mean, you're always building skills. You're always building skills. Um, and one day, if somebody knows you have some skills and has had these lovely conversations with you at the coffee truck, you never know. I have one more question for you in this networking realm too, and because listen, I know you. We have been working together for a long time, and I know that I can envision you. I know that you were out there being friendly, being polite, and there was just something about that that really appealed to people. But I also know that you're a very curious person, and I feel like you ask people a lot of questions about themselves. Do you recall, again, like transporting yourself back to pre-Mercy employee times? Was that like a part of your strategy too? And I don't mean strategy like you thought it through, but just is that a part of your approach? That kind of curiosity, did that come out as well?
Absolutely. You can learn so much from the people around you, especially if you're early on. You might learn, some of their mistakes if they're going to share them with you. And you might learn how they overcame something. So without a doubt, I leaned on the people I worked with a lot by kind of picking up what they were doing, asking them questions, finding out, what's the best way to look at this. I was a recruiter, so I was basically screening resumes for jobs. So how long do you look at a resume before you say this person isn't right for the position? And does it kind of affect how you feel about the position because you're making decisions about people's lives? So
Mm.
I don't think I directly answered that question, but in the short of it is yes, always be curious and ask people questions about themselves. And this is kind of how you learn, how you grow, how you build your network, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's such an important takeaway that, it's there's an old saying that people will remember how you made them feel more than they remember what you said, right? And so there's that, when you're polite, when you're professional, when you're friendly, that makes people feel good. But also people like to talk about themselves. People like to feel heard and understood. And simply asking questions. If you feel a little less uncomfortable about talking about yourself, like as the starting point, sometimes asking a question, making somebody engage with you and feel included in the conversation is also enough. So I know that so much about you. I feel like everywhere you go, you're asking people about themselves and getting to know them, and that curiosity really comes through. And I think that's such an attractive quality to people in general to work with you, but also employers when the time comes. Having curiosity means that you'll investigate things and solve problems and all of that. So I'm confident that was part of what made you a success also. I have one career question for you that is less about your network and your relationships, but I think also might be of interest to current Mercy students. You talked in the beginning about how you took a few years, you worked, and then you went to graduate school. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you knew both that you should take that time and not go straight into graduate school, or how you made that decision. And then when the time came, how did you make the decision to go back and get your master's?
Sure, great question. So I honestly didn't want to incur any more debt. I graduated with Mercy with pretty minimal debt, honestly. But I did not want to grow those student loans. I really wanted to get out there in the professional world and see what avenue I wanted to go down. And I felt like I wouldn't know, I didn't have a firm grasp of what avenue I was going to really like or what I was going to be really good at. Everything just felt so unknown. I wish I had known then what I know now, because you just don't know when you're younger. You don't know the jobs that are out there. You don't know what they entail, what you're going to be good at. So I knew eventually I wanted to get a master's degree, but I really wanted to get some good work experience beforehand. Then I guess I can go into another networking story if I may.
Please
which brings me to Mercy,
twist my arm.
brings me back to Mercy. So I was working at the social service agency, and as part of my job, I would have to go to different job fairs at different colleges. And I would meet a lot of people doing that. One of my actual friends who I've known my whole life, my best friend's cousin, she had been one of the people that I regularly saw at a job fair. And she started working at Mercy. And she said, "Hey, Sarah, I know you're really good at this recruiting thing," because she would see me at the fairs. She'd go, and she went, "There is a job opening at Mercy I think you're perfect for. It's a career counselor." And that felt like a dream job to me, to be able to help people and coach people. When I was in the recruiter role, I really felt like I couldn't give the feedback I wanted to because that wasn't professional. So I wasn't allowed to kind of tell the candidates I was working with what they weren't doing right in the interviews. So a career counselor at Mercy, where I went, this sounded amazing. And then I also knew I could get, go back to school for my master's at the same time. So that was another great example of kind of using the network of people around me. This example is someone from my childhood, but the previous example was someone I met in my 20s. So I think that was really where I found kind of the second path for me. So I was offered the position at Mercy, and I've been here for 12 years, and I was able to get my master's degree while working here. And I definitely have no regrets in the time period I waited between graduating with my bachelor's and starting my master's.
See, my mistake here was saying I have a non-networking question for you because it turns out, and I know this perfectly well, it turns out just about every career story is in some way a networking story, right? That's a phenomenal, what an amazing trajectory. And you can see, I think it's so clear to me just how much you put yourself out there and also how much you let people get to know you and what your goals are and what your skills are and what your passions are, so that they can be the one in your corner to say, "Hey, this thing is open and I think you would love it," or "Hey, this thing is open and I think you would be great at it," because they really just got to know you, right? Which is that cultivation that we talk about with students. Like, you have to lay some groundwork so that people think of you, you're top of mind when they see something. So these are incredible stories, Sarah. Thank you for sharing them. Do you have any final takeaway, any word of advice to students about building their social capital that we didn't cover?
Absolutely. And that would probably be everyone you know is in your network. And everyone you know probably wants to see you succeed. So don't be afraid to talk about it. And get out there in your community. Social capital goes both ways. So you want to make sure you're perceived as someone who's helping in their community, and then your community is going to come back to you and lift you up. So I'd say the world is your oyster.
Amazing advice, Sarah. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today a little bit about your career and share some amazing wisdom with students. Always appreciate you. Sara Shepard is the Director of Employer Relations here in Career and Professional Development at Mercy University. She and I are both on the second floor of the library in Main Hall on the Westchester campus. Sarah, thank you again, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That's all for this session. Be sure to visit the Career Academy website to take your quiz and get credit for watching this session. I hope you ace it, but your score won't affect your attendance. You just need to submit the quiz to get credit for the session towards your digital badge and your entry into the iPad raffle. If you want to follow up on anything discussed today, email us at cpd@mercy.edu or find your career coach's handshake link on our website. And do me a favor and give us a follow on Instagram. We're pushing out fun, educational content all the time, so don't miss a thing.